Memoirs the 737. As I fell from the 737, I could hear the rush of the wind. The cold crept over my body like the icy hands of a bad masseuse at a nursing home. Beside me, caught in the wind, was a baby free falling with me. I remember the child was in the arms of the women in the seat beside me. Something took over as I reached out to grab the small child. For a moment I must have had superhuman strength to grab and hold on to the child as we both fell to our deaths. The baby was not crying, but laughing and grinning, unknown to what was about to happen to each of us. 3 distant visions flashed quickly through my mind over and over again, a rapid screening, like in an old movie. The lights flickered till all finally went black. One was of an old woman running across a street and getting swallowed into a sudden mass of bloody water, but the water had hands. Another was of a young girl sitting on top of her roof holding a kite. Lightning flashed across the sky and lit the whole house on fire, and she just sank into the flames as scorched nails pushed her down. The third was the most gruesome, a baby, the baby I had in my arms. She was sound asleep in her cradle. A bodiless arm reached towards the poor girl, the wrinkled, pale fingernails pulled at the child's skin till there was only a small bloody skeleton across the fresh sheets of the crib. That was all I could see, all just a flash of lightning in my mind as we both cut through the icy wind below us. I had chills, my legs and arms shaking as if it were a memory. I felt like I was bound in cold leather. A piece was in my mouth like a horse's bit on its harness, making my screams of bloody murder muffled. The child still laughed. Then all was dark, for several minutes. As my nightmares come to life. I was so little. My tiny chubby hands grasped at the figure above me. Uncontrollably, I giggled. I was just a baby after all. I was the child in the stranger's hands. The figure smiled wickedly, and then I thought, this isn't me. It pulled off a black mask adorned with scarabs. I cowered and hid my eyes. It was a creature, the horse mother with 9 eyes. Then the sound of ripping flesh and an ear-splitting shriek filled the air. Then I realized it was still me. Blood pooled and soaked the ground. For a moment I couldn't see any more. As if blood-soaked hands covered my eyes. Later, the light came back on and I was a young girl, flying a kite on a roof. Then the same happened. The house became full ablaze and I was pushed down by the horse mother's own fingers. Once again, all was dark. For a moment I was an old woman walking across a street. I looked behind me and mother came crashing at me in the form of a suffocating pool of blood. Her hands encircled me and I drowned in my own flesh. All was dark once more. I didn't know what would happen to me. So I just waited, not having any ability to do anything else. Soon, it all disappeared and I was back in my own bed. I sat up, shaken from my nightmare. I rubbed my eyes and stepped out. I walked out of my room and passed by the mirror in hallway. As I looked at myself and fell backwards screaming, for I had no flesh, all I was a limping pile of bones. I went to the living room and hid behind an old chair shaking. That's when I realized the box that was next to me, on that was from when I was little. I pulled it closer and looked inside. Inside was a pink kite, all black on the edges as if it was burnt by a fire, that shook me more and more. I looked to the living room door and to my shock it was in flames, large hands behind me pushing me towards the fire. I fell back inside screeching. As I did I stumbled and fell in front of our television. The heat from the fire cracked the glass of the old television. A large wave crashed through the heat cracks. A red liquid poured out, swirling around me. This continued for several days, starting over and over, again and again, driving me mad. Finally, all was dark again. For once in what seemed like years, I opened my eyes. I was bound to a chair. I shifted my gaze up. There was my mother, her hands folded behind her. "How was your nap, sweetie?" Her hands rested on my shoulder. As an evil grin spread across her face, Slowly I felt nails dig into my skin. Stay paranoid, my friends.